We've had a very clear strategy. We've had and it's been a business or industry strategy. It hasn't been a financial strategy. Many people have said we've had a financial strategy, and I think they're not correct on that. I think we have a clearly articulated strategy, which at the moment is horizontality, which is getting people to work together to the benefit of our clients. Fast growth markets, of which Turkey is one, the BRICS and the next 11. Digital, which is 40% of our business, and here in Turkey probably around 20% of our business. And so that would be another box that Turkey ticks. And then lastly, data. And data here in Turkey is an important part of our business with all our Kantar assets and media measurement. So I would say it's having a clearly articulated strategy, which might be wrong, by the way. It doesn't. You never know; it could be wrong, but it's clearly articulated, and it's a question of implementing it. And I think over the 30 years, if you look at the 30 years, there have been 3 years when the market, the industry, has gone backwards in nominal terms. So the industry has declined. The industry is about $1 trillion industry worldwide, 500 billion in what I would call traditional analog, and 500 billion, not quite true, in new stuff, not just digital, but new stuff. And in those 30 years, there was one analyst survey on WPP when we published our results last week. There was one analyst survey that said we've had 27 good years, and I think that's true. So if you said to me in 1985 you were going to have 27 good years and 3 bad years, I would have settled for that. But we had a very tough time in 91, 92. We clearly got it. We were over leveraged, and we clearly had to improve it. Then in 2001-2 we had the internet bust. And then 2008 we had Lehman and the impact on 2009. So I would say, we've had our luck as well. Basically, it's about having a clear strategy, which we've altered over time. The first 5 years it was very acquisition-led, because we were a wire basket manufacturer worth £1 million. Today the company is $30 billion or 20 billion pounds. In 91, 92 we had the issues that I mentioned. We were over leveraged. We then restructured the company, and we had a period of the 90s were a period of organic growth. We then started to grow again by acquisition as well as organic growth in 2000 with Y&R. And the first 10 years of the new millennium to 2010, we continued that. 2008 was a watershed because of Lehman. We weathered that storm. It was very difficult in 2009. Recovered significantly in 2010. And then 11 was a record, 12 was a record, 13 was a record, 14 was a record, 15 was a record. We hope and believe, and we had a good start to 16. 16 will be a record. But if you tried to pin me down and say, what do I think, or what's the reasoning? Reasoning is a clear strategy and then implement. Well, I think it will continue. I don't see any reason. I don't think there'll be a worldwide recession. I don't know. There might be a recession in Brazil because the technical definition of a recession is two quarters of negative GDP growth. And Brazil probably is in recession already, for example, or Russia, because of the problems surrounding the sanctions in the Ukraine. And there are other parts of the world, but I don't think the world as a whole will go into recession. I think the world as a whole is growing at about 3% real, 3.5% nominal. Advertising because of the Olympics in Rio, which will be a great event despite the challenges that Brazil face. Because of the UEFA football championships, maybe Turkey will be successful in that. I won't get into trouble by talking about football clubs. I can talk about the country, so it's fine. And then, last but not least, is the American presidential election, which we tend not to benefit agencies from the media spend. We benefit from tightening up of the media market. So advertising probably this year will grow by about 4.5%. So a little bit better than GDP, even nominal GDP. And if advertising stays the same proportion of GDP, which I think it will, so in the fast growth markets, like Turkey, like the BRICS and the next 11, advertising will grow as a proportion of GDP. Well, Turkey, if I look at and currency, obviously plays a role in this because it depends on the strength or weakness of the Turkish lira. But broadly, if you look at it on a like-for-like basis, I would expect our revenues here in Turkey to grow by about 10% this year. So we'll be close to 150 million this year of revenues, and our market share here is about a third, about 31%, about double the share of the next competitor, international competitor or domestic competitor. So we have a very strong business here. It's strong in advertising, it's strong in media investment management, in data investment management, in public relations and public affairs, in branding and identity, in healthcare communications, and of course digital. So I think we're doing, and we are integrating it well. Yeah, I mean, we do. I mean, primarily, I think Turkey grew last year GDP by 3. This year, people are saying 4%. That, and then we've got inflation here in the media market. So we should grow, but as I said, by that 10%. I'm talking like for like, excluding acquisitions. If you said to me, if you or the publisher had an idea where we could double the size of our business here, so we have about 1,500 people here, mainly here in Istanbul. If you could double the size of the business here, we had would I do it tomorrow? The answer is yes. But the practical reality is is there a $150 million revenue business in the Turkish market that we could acquire? Unlikely. I'm not aware of it. If you're aware of it, tell me. You may know more than I do. So anything that we look at tends to be on the smaller side. That doesn't mean it's not good. So you find good things in little packages, which is my mother used to say that. So yeah, we will make acquisitions. We'll probably shortly make another one. I mean, that doesn't mean, by the way, that we can't do more. There's a lot more that we can do. But the technology's axis without nexus to compete against Google and DoubleClick and Facebook and Atlas, and to have an agnostic platform, because Google and Facebook are media owners, right? They're not technology companies. So that's one thing. Then on measurement, Comscore is here. There are big question marks about the quality of media measurement in the United States with the Nielsen system, whether it measures offline effectively. It probably is too a higher standard because it doesn't measure out of home, it doesn't measure C+7, which is 7 days from insertion, only 3 days from airing. On the digital side, if you think that a view is 3 seconds, and 50% of the time the sound is turned off, I think that's problematic, to say the least. I think Google in the UK said they're now up to 5 seconds, but that still may not be enough. So Group M have set standards in relation to value, viewability and validation. What Keith Weed, who's the CMO of Unilever, has called the 3 V's. Now here's Unilever, which is a major user of Facebook, with Keith on the Facebook Consumer Council saying there has to be better measurement. And the reason for that, not just a case of Unilever, I think, but our other clients too, is they want to be sure that the investments they're making online, which are now substantial, 20%, 25%, 26% worldwide, 20% here in Turkey, are yielding the correct return on investment. That's the critical issue, and so measurement is very important. And lastly, content with Vice with Full Screen, which is 100 YouTube channels run by ex-head of Peter Chernin, the ex-head of News Corp, and Media Rights Capital, which did, for example, House of Cards, which now is on Netflix for the 4th series. So technology, data and content are the new differentiators, I think, of agency performance. And the reason why in this media tsunami, as we call it, in the United States, when we won net winners up to almost $2 billion, whereas the net loser, Publicis, was at minus 3.5 billion, and there's yet some other stuff to be, some other clients to be decided. I think we have a major opportunity to grow our share. Talent and pricing are still important, and there's still discriminators, differentiators between one agency and the other, but technology, data and content are becoming more and more important. Well, the honest answer is I don't know, other than to say, which is apple pie and motherhood. It's bound to be, I think, very significant. The hardware, I don't think, is the problem, because the hardware is already well developed. I mean, after all, I looked down in space and I thought I get vertigo on a deep pile carpet. And I looked down in space and I was terrified, right? I also got a headache after 20 minutes, but from the glasses. But the hardware is good, and it will grow and get better and better. The issue is the software. So the thing that woke me up to virtual reality was when I think I was at Cannes last year, or maybe the year before, maybe it was last year, when Chris Milk, who's a film producer, produced 2 pieces of film in virtual reality. One was a Bono's song, which he took around the world, which was good, but the thing that really impressed me was a virtual reality visit to a refugee camp. And that was very powerful. I mean, apart from the Ridley Scott The Martian, which was even more powerful. I mean, to puncture your space suit, and then you're in space, and then you move through space, and then I'm rescued by a female astronaut. So no, I think it's the software, it's the film that is going to be the critical, but that's the experience. I've done the Big Dipper, on Oculus, I think it was, where you go up and down on the Big Dipper, which I don't like heights, as I said, so no, it's pretty scary. But to be mischievous, we had a session at the World Economic Forum with the tourism and travel industry, and they asked us to be very provocative. And I said, you may not have a business. It may be that you can visit anywhere in the world through virtual reality, and there won't be any need to travel. I mean, I doubt whether that's the case, but you can envisage, technology which will enable you to do that. Having said that, just talking to you, I can remember going to Israel. It must be 15 years ago, at least. Maybe more, maybe 20 years ago. And I went to an Israeli Air Force base, and I went into the flight simulator. So you had the pilot in there, but we were inside the capsule. And I can remember then, that was basically virtual reality, because you could, according to the Israeli Air Force, you could, down to leaf definition, so that is to a leaf, virtually go anywhere in the world in the aeroplane that was in the simulator. So in a way, the technology has been there for many, many years. This is not new. But there's obviously, it's a refinement. So I think it's very powerful. A lot of my colleagues say I'm wrong, and that the technology is clunky, like 3D, it's glasses, you get a headache, and it's not in the right form to be developed. I disagree. I think it's very powerful. My job is to try and differentiate. I've got 1 or 2 things to do, but my job is really fundamentally to differentiate our business from anybody else's business, whether it be Omnicom, which is the next biggest competitor. We're about 50% bigger than Omnicom, I could say a Google or, well, I wasn't thinking about that so much as a Google or a Facebook, which is a frenemy. Or any of the consultancies, a Deloitte and Accenture and IBM, which people are speculating are going to get even more further involved in, or software companies like Oracle or Salesforce or whatever. So differentiation is key, and the three areas are technology, data and content. And therefore investing in content, not necessarily to produce things, but to bring together clients who want to sponsor, do native advertising, and media owners who want to develop as sponsorship revenues around their business. I mean, it's clearly shown that there's a sponsorship, advertorial, not mixing commerce with editorial. I mean, not misleading consumers into thinking that something is editorial when it's really advertorial. In other words, it's sponsored or native content. That's critically important. But I think it's really in the online marketplace, which is now 30% of the industry, or 25, 27% of the industry, it's going to be, in order to monetize that content, or monetizing that content is going to become more and more important, because that the analog version of this or this used to be much more profitable than it is now, and the digital version is less profitable even than the print version now. So morphing, changing from offline analog to digital is very difficult.